Wait, you're telling me humans don't have predators? Zixtal clicked his mandibles in disbelief, all four eyes fixed on the holographic display showing Earth's wildlife statistics. Not anymore, Sarah replied with a shrug, taking another sip of her coffee. I mean, historically we had to deal with big cats, wolves, bears, but we kind of worked our way up the food chain. She couldn't help but smile at his reaction. But that's impossible, Zixtal chittered. Every sentient species evolved alongside apex predators that shaped their development. The Vrax had the crystal stalkers, we Shirip had the tunnel worms, even the peaceful Aethery developed under threat from atmospheric leviathans. Sarah set down her coffee mug and leaned back in her chair, propping her feet up on the lab console in a way that made Zixtal's exoskeleton bristle with mild disapproval. Oh, we definitely evolved alongside predators. We just decided we didn't want to be prey anymore. Decided? Zixtal's translator barely managed to convey his incredulity. One doesn't simply decide to stop being prey. Watch me, Sarah grinned, then immediately regretted her choice of words, as Zixtal's compound eyes began rapidly scanning her for signs of predatory adaptations. But you have no natural weapons, no venom, no claws, your teeth are practically useless in combat, your skin offers minimal protection. He paused, mandibles working furiously as he processed this contradiction. By all biological metrics, you should be classified as prey species. Before Sarah could respond, the lab's door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing Captain Rodriguez. The normally stoic ship's commander had an unusually troubled expression on his face. Dr. Chen, Dr. Zixtal, he nodded to them both. We've received a rather unusual distress signal. I believe your expertise might be needed. Sarah's feet came off the console as she sat up straight. What kind of distress signal? One from a Cravanax hunter. Rodriguez's face darkened. They're requesting emergency extraction after a failed hunt on an unregistered garden world. Apparently, their target proved more challenging than anticipated. Zixtal's antennae went rigid. A Cravanax? Impossible. They're the galaxy's most accomplished predatory species. Nothing survives once they've chosen it as prey. Well, Rodriguez said grimly, this one encountered a human survey team. Sarah felt a familiar mix of concern and resignation wash over her. Oh boy, how bad is it? The Cravanax is alive, technically, but according to the medical data transmitted, they're suffering from multiple broken limbs, severe concussion, second-degree burns, and what appears to be... Rodriguez checked his datapad. Psychological trauma from something they're describing as demons with fire sticks who wouldn't die properly. Zixtal's mandibles clacked rapidly. But Cravanax are nearly invulnerable. Their neural regeneration alone makes them practically impossible to incapacitate. Yeah, Sarah sighed, standing up and grabbing her lab coat. About that whole humans are prey theory of yours. The medical bay of the Curiosity was state-of-the-art, capable of treating dozens of different species' physiologies. Currently, it was occupied by what Sarah could only describe as a thoroughly demoralized apex predator. The Cravanax was massive, easily 3 meters tall even lying down, with iridescent scales that would have been beautiful if they weren't partially covered in bandages and burn marks. Its 6 limbs were secured in medical restraints, though given the number of splints and casts, that seemed unnecessary. 4 pairs of eyes, currently glazed with pain medication, tracked their movement as they entered. Finally, it rumbled through the translator. Scientists, you must help me understand. What are they? Sarah glanced at her companion. Zixtal was practically vibrating with scientific curiosity, all thoughts of human prey classification temporarily forgotten in the face of this unprecedented situation. Perhaps you could start by telling us what happened, Sarah suggested, pulling up a chair. From the beginning, the Cravanax scales rippled in what might have been embarrassment. Was us. Huntmaster Kazrix. My record was perfect. 97 successful hunts across 32 systems. When I detected unusual biosignatures on an unmarked world, I thought... It paused, mandibles clicking in distress. I thought it would be glory, a new prey species for the records. And you found humans instead? Sarah finished, trying to keep the amusement out of her voice. I found monsters, Kazarx corrected. At first, they seemed perfect prey. Soft, slow, no natural defenses. They were setting up some kind of research station in the valleys. I followed my usual protocol. Disable their technology, isolate one from the group. How many humans were there? Zixtal interrupted, taking notes frantically. 5. I thought it would be simple. Quick. I disabled their primary power source during their sleep cycle and selected the smallest one for my first hunt. X's scales rippled again, this time in what was definitely fear. She was barely half my size. Sarah had a sinking feeling she knew where this was going. This small human. Did she have red hair? Lots of freckles? Yes. You know of this demon? That would be Dr. Claire O'Malley, Sarah sighed. She's our leading xenobotanist, 5'2", 110 pounds soaking wet, and former Australian Special Forces. X's translator glitched, trying to convey the sound it made. Please, Sarah gestured. Continue. I followed all the proper hunting protocols, disabled their communications, separated her from shelter, drove her into the Highland Canyons. The Cravenax's voice took on a haunted quality. She smiled at me. Then she started running, but not like prey runs. She ran. Up. Up? Zixtal's antennae twitched in confusion. Humans are excellent climbers, Sarah explained. Persistence hunters, remember? We're also pretty good at parkour when motivated. She moved like water flowing across the rocks, always just out of reach. Xerx continued. I thought I was herding her into a dead end, but she was leading me. By the time I realized we were in a narrow canyon with high walls, it was too late. Let me guess, Sarah interrupted. She had the high ground? The demon had planted small devices throughout the canyon. When I entered, she triggered them. Explosions everywhere. Not enough to kill me. But the dust, the confusion. Then she dropped down onto my back. Xerx shuddered. Do you know what she did then? Knowing Claire? Probably tried to rodeo you while singing Waltzing Matilda. She spoke into some kind of device, saying, Crikey, ain't she a beauty? Then she... The Cravenax's voice dropped to a whisper. She tried to stick her thumb up my cloaca. Sarah buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Zixtal looked horrified and fascinated in equal measure. I threw her off, of course, Xerx continued, oblivious to Sarah's reaction. But when I turned to deliver the killing blow, she was gone. Just gone. Then something hit me from above, some kind of burning liquid. Let me guess. About room temperature, brown, smelled like beans? It burned. Not like acid, but... Coffee, Sarah nodded. Claire practically lives on the stuff. Probably had her thermos with her. While I was distracted, she used some kind of primitive chemical weapon. Launched it right at my face. Xerx's scales were practically strobing with distress now. That would be the pepper spray, Sarah mused. Standard survey team equipment, for bears usually. Bears? Zixtal asked. I'll explain later. Please continue, Xerx. I was blind, in pain. Then something hard hit my knees from behind. When I fell, The mighty hunter actually whimpered. She started singing something about a billabong while hitting me with a stick. Her emergency survey pole, Sarah translated for Zixtal's benefit. Collapsible titanium alloy. Doubles as a walking stick. Or in Claire's case, apparently a weapon. But that's not the worst part, Xerx whispered. Oh? When I finally managed to pin her down, finally had her at my mercy, she laughed. Then she said, yes? Thanks, mate. You've kept me busy long enough. The others should be done by now. Xerx's scales went completely flat, a sign of absolute terror. That's when I realized she wasn't hunting me. She was just the distraction. Sarah checked her tablet, scrolling through the incident report. Ah, yes. While Claire was keeping you occupied, the rest of the survey team recovered their equipment, set up a proper defensive perimeter, and called for immediate extraction due to discovery of hostile megafauna. They had weapons, strange metal tubes that spat fire and death, and they worked together moving like a pack of apex predators? Sarah suggested innocently. But it doesn't make sense, Xerx wailed. You're soft, weak. You have no natural weapons. Ah, but that's where you're wrong, Sarah smiled. We have the most dangerous natural weapons in the galaxy. Pattern recognition, tool use, and collaborative problem solving. While you were busy playing chase with Claire, her teammates grabbed their sidearms, set up cover, and prepared a kill zone. If she hadn't managed to incapacitate you on her own, you would have walked right into a crossfire. But, you made several crucial mistakes, Sarah continued, warming to her topic. First, You assumed that being physically smaller and weaker made us prey. Second, you targeted an isolated individual without realizing that humans are never truly isolated. We work as a group even when separated. Third, you disabled our technology without understanding that we're never truly dependent on it. We can always fall back on more primitive but equally effective methods. Like sticks and hot beans, Zixtal noted, still taking furious notes. Exactly. But your biggest mistake? You assume that because we don't look dangerous, we aren't dangerous. Sarah stood up, stretching. Humans didn't evolve to be apex predators, Kaiser-X. We made ourselves into apex predators. And we did it so well that we had to invent laws and ethics just to give everything else a fighting chance. The Craven-X was silent for a long moment, processing this. Finally, it spoke again. The small demon. When they were loading me onto the medical transport, she patted my head and said she hadn't had that much fun since basic training. Sounds like Claire, Sarah laughed. Don't worry, she didn't take it personally. Humans are weird that way. Try to kill us and we might end up offering you a beer afterward. Speaking of which... She turned to Zixtal. Still think we're a prey species? The xenobiologist's antennae were practically tied in knots. I need to completely revise my classification protocols and possibly warn the Galactic Science Council about updating their hunting regulations. Good idea. Maybe add a warning label. Caution. Species may appear more prey-like than they are. Attempted hunting may result in severe physical trauma and psychological scarring. Also, they might try to buy you drinks afterward. As they left the medical bay, Sarah could have sworn she heard Kaiser-X muttering something about retiring and taking up gardening. She made a mental note to send Claire a message. Knowing her, she'd probably want to swap contact information with the Craven-X and trade hunting stories over coffee. After all, humans didn't just become apex predators through force. They did it by turning enemies into friends, one confused alien at a time. Later that evening, as Sarah finished writing up her report on the incident, she received a message from Claire. Heard our scaly friend made it to medical. Tell them no hard feelings, but maybe next time ask before trying to hunt someone. Also, do they like flat whites? Asking for a friend. Sarah looked over at Zixtal, who was still frantically updating his species classification database. Hey, quick question. How do you think the Galactic Council would react to a human trying to adopt a Craven-X? The sound of Zixtal's exoskeleton creaking in distress was all the answer she needed. Just another day in human-alien relations, she thought, and started composing her reply to Claire. Maybe she'd suggest starting with a nice herbal tea instead of coffee. After all, they didn't want to traumatize the poor predator any further. Though knowing Claire, she'd probably already ordered a custom mug with "World's Most Huggable Apex Predator" printed on it. Humans, Sarah reflected with a smile, really were the galaxy's worst nightmare. Predators who wanted to be friends with everything they didn't have to kill, and who treated mortal combat as a social activity. No wonder the rest of the galaxy had trouble figuring them out. She made a mental note to suggest updating Earth's galactic classification. Current status, Death World. You did what? Sarah stared at her tablet in disbelief, coffee forgotten and growing cold beside her. I invited Kaiser-X to Earth for cultural exchange. Claire's holographic form bounced excitedly in the air above Sarah's desk. The poor thing's been absolutely fascinated by human survival techniques since our little encounter. Besides, they make the most adorable chirping sound when surprised. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose. Beside her, Zixtal's antennae were performing what could only be described as interpretive dance of pure anxiety. Claire, you can't just invite the galaxy's most dangerous apex predator to Earth for... What exactly are you planning? Well, first I thought we'd do some light hiking in the outback. No. Maybe a spot of croc wrestling? Absolutely not. Fine, Claire pouted. But I already promised to show them my grand's sheep farm in Tasmania. Did you know Craven-X have never seen sheep? Can you imagine? They're going to love them. Sarah exchanged a look with Zixtal, who was now making a sound remarkably similar to a tea kettle reaching boil. Claire, honey, remember what happened last time you introduced an alien species to Earth wildlife? That incident with the kangaroo was totally not my fault. How was I supposed to know Etheri could bounce that high when startled? The diplomatic incident lasted 3 months, Claire. 3 months. Yeah, but now Ambassador Zarip has a lovely collection of boxing gloves and a newfound respect for marsupials. Claire's grin was practically radioactive. Besides, Kaiser-X is different. They've been studying human culture ever since our little game of chase. Did you know they've taken up jogging? Sarah blinked. Jogging. Yep. Says it helps them understand the whole persistence hunting thing better. Though they keep complaining about only having 6 legs to work with. Apparently, our bipedal stability is unnaturally efficient or something. Zixtal finally found his voice. But Cravenax are ambush predators. They don't do endurance activities. Their entire evolutionary history is based on short bursts of overwhelming force. Well, they do now, Claire chirped. KZRX has even started a blog about it. From Apex to Athlete, a predator's journey to understanding humans. It's got quite a following in the Galactic Core, though some of the other Cravenax are calling it heresy. Sarah took a long, careful sip of her now-cold coffee, trying to process this information. Claire, dear, wonderful Claire. Are you telling me that you've not only befriended the apex predator who tried to hunt you, but you've also somehow managed to start a cultural revolution within their species? Oh no, that was totally unintentional. The revolution part, I mean. The friendship was absolutely on purpose. Did you know they've never had hot chocolate? Can you imagine going through life without hot chocolate? It's tragic. Focus, Claire. What exactly are you planning to do with KZRX on Earth? Well, first we're going to visit my grand's farm, like I said. Then I thought we might do a tour of different biomes. You know, show them how humans adapted to various environments. KZRX is particularly interested in how we managed to become apex predators in every single one. And you don't see any potential problems with this plan? Nope. I've already cleared it with the Xenological Exchange Board. They're actually quite excited about it. First official Cravenax cultural ambassador and all that. Though they did make me promise not to recreate the Sydney Opera House incident. The what incident? Oh, nothing important. More relevantly, KZRX has been taking classes in human social customs. They're actually quite good at tea ceremonies now, though we had some initial confusion about the difference between green tea and antifreeze. Simple mistake, really. Could have happened to anyone. Sarah looked at Zixtal, who appeared to be trying to molt from pure stress. And you're sure this is a good idea? Sarah, my dear sweet science friend, when have my ideas ever not been good? Would you like that list alphabetically or chronologically? Details. Oh, did I mention KZRX has taken up knitting? They're making me a sweater. Though with 6 arms they tend to get a bit enthusiastic with the needles. It's got 16 sleeves so far. Sarah felt a headache coming on. Claire. Also, they've developed this fascinating theory about human pack bonding behaviors. They think our tendency to adopt potentially dangerous creatures might actually be an evolved survival strategy. Something about converting threats into assets through aggressive application of positive reinforcement. They're writing a paper about it. A paper? Yep. The human paradox, predatory behavior through friendship formation. It's actually quite insightful. Though they're still trying to understand why we keep small predators in our homes and call them kitty. Zixtal, who had been quietly having an existential crisis in the corner, suddenly perked up. Wait, you deliberately incorporate smaller predators into your social groups? Oh boy, Sarah muttered. Of course, Claire beamed. Want to see pictures of my cat? Her name is Lieutenant Whiskers, and she's absolutely precious. Though she did try to eat KZRX's molt once. Apparently, Cravenax molt when subjected to excessive amounts of human interaction. Who knew? Sarah watched as Claire proceeded to show Zixtal approximately 8,000 photos of her cat, each accompanied by increasingly elaborate explanations of why humans consider predatory behavior cute when it comes from something small and fuzzy. The xenobiologists' antennae were now moving so fast they were practically achieving liftoff. And that's why I think KZRX would make an excellent addition to our ongoing study of cross-species socialization, Claire finished triumphantly. Also, they've asked if they can bring their knitting circle. Apparently several other Cravenax have taken up fiber arts as a way to understand human tool use. They're calling it predatory crafting. Sarah looked at her empty coffee cup, then at Claire's eager face, then at Zixtal's ongoing nervous breakdown. You know what? Fine. But if this ends up anything like the Great Emu Incident of 2023, you're explaining it to the council yourself. Yes, you're the best. Oh, and one more tiny detail. What now? KZRX may have adopted 3 sheep already. Through VidCall. They've named them Prey Practice, Fluffy Vengeance, and Steve. Steve? They're still working on understanding human naming conventions. As Claire's hologram flickered off, Sarah turned to Zixtal. So, want to help me update the Galactic Species database again? What could we possibly add to the human entry at this point? The xenobiologist chittered weakly. Warning. May attempt to rehabilitate apex predators through aggressive application of friendship and craft projects. Approach with caution and/or knitting needles. Somewhere in the galaxy, a former huntmaster was practicing their pearl stitch and wondering exactly how they'd gone from apex predator to craft enthusiast. The sweater they were making had 19 sleeves now, but they were fairly certain they were getting closer to understanding humans. After all, if you can't beat them, join their knitting circle? 3 months later, Sarah received another message from Claire. Quick question. How do you feel about starting a multi-species rugby league? KZRX thinks they've finally figured out why humans consider recreational violence a bonding activity. Also, Lieutenant Whiskers has adopted their entire knitting circle. Should I be concerned that my cat is now leading a pack of reformed apex predators? Sarah didn't even bother responding. She just updated the human species entry one more time. Warning. Side effects of human interaction may include unexpected hobby acquisition, philosophical reevaluation of predatory nature, spontaneous friendship formation, and inexplicable desire to learn crafting skills. In severe cases, may result in complete behavioral reformation and/or adoption by Earth felines. Approach with caution. Or cookies. Results may vary. Order, please. The 7th meeting of PAA is now in session. Inside, arranged in what appeared to be a support group circle, sat 6 Cravenacs, 3 Vrax crystal stalkers, a tunnel worm, and what she was pretty sure was an atmospheric leviathan somehow squeezed into the room via some creative use of spatial compression technology. KZRX stood at a small podium, wearing what appeared to be a hand-knitted sweater with at least 20 sleeves. Welcome everyone to Predators Anonymous, KZRX announced cheerfully. Before we begin today's session, would anyone like to share their progress? One of the crystal stalkers raised a crystalline appendage. It's been 2 weeks since my last hunt. I've taken up watercolor painting instead. The way the colors blend, it reminds me of blood, but in a peaceful way. Very good. Crystalline death from above. Or should I say, Steve? Yes, I've chosen a human name. Steve feels less threatening. Sarah felt Zixtal's antennae brushing against her shoulder as he whispered, What are we witnessing? I think, Sarah whispered back, we're watching the birth of an interstellar predator rehabilitation program. Would anyone else like to share? KZRX continued, adjusting their sweater with several limbs, while using others to shuffle papers covered in what appeared to be doodles of sheep. The atmospheric leviathan somehow raised the equivalent of an appendage. Its translator crackled to life. I used to terrorize the upper atmosphere of my homeworld, but since meeting Claire... There was a collective knowing nod from the group at the mention of Claire's name. I've discovered interpretive dance. The winds are now my stage, not my hunting grounds. Excellent progress, Stormbringer. Though perhaps we should use your new human name? Yes, call me Bob. Sarah couldn't help herself. She cleared her throat. Every predatory head in the room swiveled toward her with perfectly synchronized movement. I'm sorry, but what exactly is going on here? Sarah! KZRX's scales rippled with delight. Everyone, this is one of the humans I told you about. Sarah, meet Pay A, a support group for apex predators learning to explore non-predatory pursuits through human-inspired activities. I see, Sarah managed, noting that several of the assembled predators were wearing what appeared to be friendship bracelets. And how exactly did this start? Well, after Claire introduced me to knitting. Of course Claire is behind this, Sarah muttered. I realized that many other apex predators might benefit from understanding humans better. Did you know that before meeting humans, none of us had ever considered that you could experience the thrill of the hunt through competitive baking? A tunnel worm nodded enthusiastically, its massive form draped in what appeared to be a kiss the cook apron. My soufflés are to die for, literally, in my old life. Now they just win ribbons at the Galactic Bake-Off. Right, Sarah said weakly, finally stepping fully into the room. Zixtal followed, his exoskeleton creaking with the effort of processing this reality. And everyone here is former apex predators? Oh no, KZRX corrected. We're still apex predators. We're just expanding our horizons, taking up hobbies, learning to channel our predatory instincts into more constructive pursuits. Did you know humans have something called extreme sports? It's like hunting, but you only hunt yourself. I've taken up skateboarding, one of the Vrax announced proudly. The humans call me Radical Dave now. Sarah found herself a chair and sat down heavily. And Claire knows about this? Oh yes, she's our honorary advisor, though she's currently banned from attending meetings in person after the incident with the paintball guns. The what? We're not supposed to talk about it, Kezarek said quickly. Galactic Council orders. Something about excessive enthusiasm and property damage, and that's not how you're supposed to use a tea cozy. The atmospheric Leviathan, Bob rippled apologetically. I still have paint in places I didn't know I had. Moving on, Kezarek chirped. Today's topic is transforming territory, marking into abstract art. But first, let's recite our group mantra. The assembled predators spoke in unison. Grant me the serenity to accept the prey I should not hunt, the courage to pursue new hobbies, and the wisdom to know that humans are crazy enough to be friends with anything. Sarah turned to Zixtal, who appeared to be questioning every scientific principle he'd ever learned. Are you getting all this? My research notes gave up and started writing poetry 3 minutes ago, he replied faintly. Next week, Kezarek continued enthusiastically, we'll be starting our book club. We're reading Eat, Pray, Don't Love Hunting Anymore, and Zen and the Art of Not Eating Your Neighbors. And the week after that, the tunnel worm added, we're having our first group pottery class, though we had to special order the wheels for those of us with multiple appendages. Don't forget the charity bake sale, Radical Dave chimed in. All proceeds go to the Predators for Peace Foundation. We're teaching young hunters that there's more to life than the thrill of the chase, like macrame. Sarah watched as the galaxy's most dangerous creatures enthusiastically discussed their upcoming craft fair. Someone had started passing around a sign-up sheet for next month's meditation retreat. The atmospheric Leviathan was showing off its latest interpretive dance routine, which appeared to be titled Wind Currents of Love. You know, she said to Zixtal, I think we need to update the human species classification again. What could we possibly add at this point? Warning. Prolonged exposure to humans may result in spontaneous formation of support groups, development of artistic tendencies, an uncontrollable urge to take up wholesome hobbies. Side effects may include complete lifestyle changes, adoption of human names, usually Steve, and inexplicable proficiency in fiber arts. Just then, Claire's hologram popped up in the middle of the room. Hey everyone, sorry I'm late for... Oh hi Sarah. Has Kezarek told you about our plans for the Interspecies Olympics yet? We're combining traditional hunting techniques with synchronized swimming. Sarah looked at her coffee, wishing it contained something stronger. Claire, dear. Yes? Why are there 3 Vrax crystal stalkers outside the room practicing what appears to be synchronized roller skating? Oh, that's the B team. They're still working on their routine for the big showcase, though we had to modify the skates a bit to account for their crystalline structure. Did you know that if you get them excited enough about a new hobby, they start growing crystals in the shape of sports equipment? Sarah turned to Kezarek. How's that sweater coming along? 23 sleeves now. I'm thinking of starting a fashion line, Predator Cooter, for the apex predator who's more than their appetite. As the meeting devolved into an impromptu crafting session, the atmospheric Leviathan was surprisingly good at crochet. Sarah made one final addition to the human species database. Warning. May cause previously stable apex predators to question their life choices, take up interpretive dance, and adopt human names. Success rate of rehabilitation through aggressive friendship, disturbing high. Approach with caution, or craft supplies, preferably both. P.S. If Claire O'Malley suggests any group activities, contact your nearest Galactic Council representative immediately. Unless it's a knitting circle. Those are apparently fine. P.P.S. Why is everyone named Steve?